Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. I remember having a typical mundane day in our calculus class. The promise of spring break was tantalizingly close. Some restlessness had taken over the classroom as we waited to taste our freedom for a few months. Our teacher, known for his laid-back behavior, decided to inject some fun into the class. He introduced a brand logo quiz on Sparkle, which was a welcome break from the usual routine. "Alright, folks, let's have a little bit of fun before the weekend. Why don't we?" our teacher announced with a big smile. That moment of relaxation was short-lived, though. The tranquility of our classroom was shattered when the principal's voice suddenly came over the loudspeaker. His usually calm demeanor had a tone of panic to it, and his words sent a chill through the room. "This is not a drill. All teachers proceed with lockdown," he urgently declared over the loudspeaker. A sense of foreboding washed over the room. Our teacher, typically easygoing, seemed to be in distress as he hurriedly dimmed the lights and herded us to the safety of the corner. There was an eerie silence as we waited. I remember the hum of an electrical panel in the back room being the only sound I could hear. The moment stretched on, and it felt like every shadow cast a long feeling of dread. "This can't be real," one of the students muttered. The agony of the situation escalated. We began to hear a man's screams echoing down the hallway. I remember panic seizing me as those wails grew louder and closer to our room. It was impossible to stay composed. Then, when this man began pounding on all the lockers outside, screaming threats at us, "I'll kill all of you," he screamed. The fear for our lives consumed us as the frenzied man walked right over to our classroom door and began to bang and tug on it. The screaming and crying of some girls in the class only served to scare everyone even more. The pounding persisted, and time seemed to slow down in that moment. "Is this really happening?" I remember another student whispering. After many minutes of his tormenting screams and relentless banging trying to get in, they receded into the distance. We felt a bit of relief, but we remained very on edge, waiting for the terrible shoe to drop. The principal's voice filled the room once more, explaining this unsettling situation. Apparently, the mentally unstable intruder had walked right in the front door and attacked the woman at the front desk, sparking chaos and alarm. He repeated once more, to remain in lockdown. As we learned more, it turned out the man had recently fled from authorities and just happened to run into the school to try and escape. The school was left grappling with the haunting knowledge that he was still lurking somewhere nearby. "Stay calm, everyone. The police are on their way," the principal reassured us all. The man's intrusion, though, had left a mark on the school, and we were left to wonder about his whereabouts. As students, we all realized that safety can't be taken for granted, even in the most ordinary of moments. To this day, I don't know what happened to the man who caused our harrowing lockdown. He escaped out of the school before the police arrived, and he didn't actually end up hurting anyone inside, other than the lady at the front desk. I like to believe that he was caught and is now receiving the help he so clearly needed, instead of being lost in that mental darkness forever. At high school, I made friends with some guys from a nearby town, and I often traveled there to spend some time with them. One night, one of them told me there was an abandoned meat plant in a secluded part of the town, and we should go there to explore. Some of my buds had already been there before. I was a 16-year-old who loved adrenaline, so I thought that was a really great idea. After some hesitation from a few of the others, everyone agreed to go. One guy led us, and I found the path a bit odd. I mean, when the place was active, they probably transported products and/or animals with trucks and such, but it would be very difficult for a truck to pass through. We walked down this long, narrow dirt road surrounded by fields and forests, with absolutely no lights or buildings anywhere nearby. This place was in the middle of nowhere. After about 10 to 15 minutes of walking, we finally arrived, hopped the fence, and decided to check what was inside. We explored the whole place, which was pretty fun because they had left everything behind, machines, workwear, etc. To be honest, nothing paranormal happened there or anything. But we did find two things very strange. For one, the place had been abandoned for more than 10 years at the time. However, we found a big barrel in the yard that appeared to be filled with some sort of guts and blood. It didn't really look fresh, but it also wasn't decaying either. It was quite strange. Every door was also unlocked, except for one. That door looked brand new, while all the other doors were old and battered. The room didn't have windows either, so we couldn't see what was inside. There was also another later discovery by someone who regularly went to that place. A couple of other kids had broken the padlock on the gate to get inside one time, only to find that days later another padlock had appeared. Anyways, it was quite a fun experience, and it became a habit to go there every once in a while. The very last time we were there, though, was in February of 2017. It was 2 weeks after our last visit when we saw the police were there. We heard that some kind of crime had occurred at the meat plant, and the police were searching for somebody. I never got the full details on what happened. There's a small news portal that dealt with what was happening in this area, but they didn't even publish anything about the incident, so we tried to find it on other sites. There was absolutely no information about this place on the internet, as if it never existed. There were some rumors that multiple bodies had been found inside, and somebody was using the place as a dumping ground or something. Either way, I don't think I'll ever go there again. Back when I was 18, I graduated in 2021, I wanted to take a gap year, well, as much of one as you can take in America, to focus on myself after the pandemic. My godfather had also passed away while visiting us due to some hospital malpractice. I was already in a lot of grief and staying inside more than ever. My brother, 25, was working at Petco and met a sweet old lady who needed a dog sitter. Somehow, I ended up getting an interview to dog sit. As a dog owner, I had a lot of experience caring for them. I should have left, though, the second she told me my worth was only $2 an hour and that she'd pay bi-weekly because she could pay anyone to dog sit for $10 an hour. I reluctantly accepted, as it was a job, and she insisted I stay over 12 hours a day. I always think about how much I could have made back then if I just knew my own worth. As the interview went on, she brought up this ex-roommate of hers that she had kicked out in a heated argument. She ominously told me, if anyone knocks on the door, do not let them in. Lock the door every day when you first get in and only open it for me. Obviously, this terrified me, but my people-pleasing kicked in, and I felt like I needed to care for this sweet old lady. To my luck, at least, the job was actually somewhat fun. I got up early, and she was really chill. I only needed to walk and feed the dog twice a day, and otherwise, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted in her big home. This lady was obviously just very lonely. She had this giant house and a ton of food, just in case people ever came over. She insisted I feed the dogs boiled chicken from this pot that I had to reboil every day. For the rest of the day I dog sat, though I had this 3,000 square foot, clean house with 3 bedrooms and nobody to bother me for 12 hours, I didn't have to worry about my home life, and I could do anything I wanted. I thought nothing could go wrong here, but I was wrong. What happened next terrifies me to this very day. For a good 2, maybe 3 months, everything seemed to be going fine, but in the back of my head, I always thought about that lingering fear of her ex-roommate. One day, I came in, and everything was normal, but I got this weird feeling that I should not go outside with the dogs yet. I was a bit physically disabled, so it was very taxing on my body. Then it happened. It was a soft tapping at the front door. Huh? That's weird. Do people usually knock? The tapping continued. Leave the box at the front door, please, I yelled out. My heart then sank as a response came. Hello, can you let me inside? I looked over only to see this lanky, tall, white man with a weirdly cut toupee and dead eyes looking straight at me from the window. He began to tap on the window right in front of me. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you. Please, I have a package here." I tried to ignore him and told him he needed to go away. "Oh no, I'm not a bad person. My friend is your boss." My heart skipped a beat. I realized this was the exact same man she had been talking about, and he was not going to be leaving easily. He told me he only needed to come in for 1 second and began to walk around to the back. I told him I'd call 911 if he left my sight. He calmly laughed in my face. "Wow, it's all right, buddy. I just need my pillow. Yeah, it's in the other room. Only I know where it is." I tried to reason with him, but he refused to leave. I called the dog-sitting lady. She picked up, and I told her he was trying to get inside. Like the great boss she was, she just told me not to let him in and not to trust him. At the same time, she tried to act like he was completely harmless. She told me she would be getting off at 3, which was the earliest she could, that was in 4 fucking hours. So instead, I called my dad. My dad showed up, ready to square up with this guy, and started yelling at him. The man slowly crept by him until my dad said, "Back the fuck up, dude, or I'll beat your ass." Luckily, the guy took this as a sign and moved away, but said that he'd be back for me for supporting my boss later. At that point, I just left. I wish I could say that was the end of my time there, but for a short while, it wasn't. My story's already pretty long, though, so I guess that's a tale for another time. This just happened, and I'm still pretty shaken up by it all. This evening, while putting away some clothes in my closet, I noticed the entry point to my attic had been disturbed and was set slightly ajar. I live in a condo with my wife and child. Our master bedroom has a walk-in closet with an access point, a lid or whatever, to our attic. I don't believe the attic connects with any other condos, but we do share walls with neighbors on both sides. As I was folding and putting away laundry this evening, my wife walked in from the connecting bathroom. She had come to ask me something when all of a sudden she gasped and said, "Look up." My blood turned cold immediately. There it was. The entry point, the drywall lid, was lifted out of place and set ajar. She had been giving our child a bath at the same time, basically right in that area where you could see from the attic. I froze for a moment, not knowing exactly how to handle this situation. I got a hold of myself, though, and dialed 911 while I rushed my wife and child to go downstairs in a hurry. Both of them got ready and moved out, while I stayed on guard, watching the entry to the attic crawl space. The police showed up after what felt like an eternity. They checked up there, but they couldn't find anything. There were no signs of forced entry, just the obviously lifted and placed ajar crawl space cover. Now I'm here alone, wondering if we overreacted or what the fuck exactly happened. Somebody obviously moved the door. It wasn't bumped or hit by myself or my wife. It was too high up, and my child was not able to get anywhere near the access point either. The creepiest thing that bothered me the most, though, was there was no way to tell if it had been moved from inside or from the closet below. The police said the drywall that connects up there wasn't broken or cut up or anything, so nobody had snuck into another condo. There were no signs of fiberglass disturbed near the entry or around the closet either, so no one was obviously crawling around, lurking, or messing the shit up for a long time. I'm seriously thinking about placing a lock on that entry point somehow, but I'm not good with that kind of handiwork. I wouldn't even know how to begin cutting or making a sturdier lid to even try to put a lock on one. Now, I'm not gonna say this is paranormal, but I also had a disturbing dream about the situation a couple of weeks after. In my dream, a woman seemingly called me randomly one day and kept repeating, "Is there someone inside your house?" I panicked and rushed everyone in my house out the door. I had my wife out front with my kid. I can't remember if we found anyone or anything in my dream. It was just a very unsettling bonus experience, I guess. And it was a strange night, to say the least. This goes back to 2016, but since I'm new here, I thought I'd post and see what y'all think, because I don't really know what to think about it. I, 31 and female, bought my first home back in 2016 on my own as a single young woman. I was so proud and excited, especially after leaving the toxic guy I was with the previous 5 years on and off. It was a fresh start that I really needed. Anyways, I moved in, just me, no roommate, and my ex had never been there before. The house was a small, 2-bedroom rancher built in the 50s, but updated a bit. It had a dirt crawl space for storage and a huge fenced yard with 3 gates, a metal gate, a smaller gate to get to the front door, and an old wooden gate to pull into the covered garage area. I'm a nursing student, so I do a lot of night shifts. After living in the house for a few weeks, I got home from a night shift. It was 6 a.m., and just starting to get light outside when I noticed there were apples scattered all over my front yard. Not apples from a tree, either, like store-bought apples with the stickers still on them. They'd been thrown haphazardly all over my front yard. I was kind of tired and brushed it off as kids messing around, then went right to sleep. A few weeks later, I got off another night shift, and everything seemed normal, as most mornings were. I went to bed soon after. I had a house sitter the weekend prior, as I'd gone on a girls' trip with some friends. The house sitter had some people come over to have drinks, which was totally fine, but they'd left the cans in my fire pit. When I woke up after that sleep that day, I went to let my dog outside to pee in the backyard. I noticed that all the cans, as well as burnt chunks of wood, were laid out in a perfect circle outside my fire pit. That seemed quite odd, but I just kind of thought it was those neighborhood kids messing around again. Another few weeks went by, and again, I got off the night shift. I pulled into my driveway only to have my heart sink immediately. I could see all my gates were wide open. They had all been closed and latched up tight when I left. Something just felt off this time. I was tired after a long shift, though, and told myself not to get freaked out over stupid kids being annoying. I didn't have enough strength to stay awake anyway. That following weekend, I had off. My cousin wanted to go to the movies, so I agreed, and she came to pick me up. When I left, I put my dog in the house, locked the door, and left the porch light on since it would be dark when I got back home. When I arrived back, I found my dog outside, the door completely unlocked, and the porch light had been turned off as well. The lights inside were on, though. This time, I was really freaked out. I called my dad to come check out the house for me. I was convinced someone had done this from inside, that someone must be living in my crawl space or something. He came and checked for me immediately. There was nothing to be found. I ended up getting a roommate to ease my mind a little and feel a bit safer. A guy from work was looking for a new place to stay, so I offered for him to room with me for cheap. He accepted, quite readily. He was a big dude, so I felt whoever was messing with me would think twice with him living there. I was wrong, though. One night, I was home alone as my roommate was working a night shift. I fell asleep on the couch while watching a movie, only to wake up to a missed call from a random number. I googled the number since I had never seen it before and noticed it was from one of those apps you could download to call or text anonymously. I tried calling it back to no answer, but then seconds later, I got a text, much to my surprise, "How's the movie?" I asked who this was. "What do you think it is?" I asked my roommate if he was messing with me, but he replied from his normal number, "What are you talking about?" I told the random number to cut it out. It wasn't funny anymore. They continued to say things to me as if they could see me right now. I was super creeped out and ran over to my window and closed the blinds. They then told me, "If you want to come outside, you could see who it is." I ran to my door and locked it right away. Then they replied, "It's me, Corey." I didn't know any Coreys, though. I ignored the texts, and I guess they eventually got bored of tormenting me. I waited until my roommate got home so I could sleep. Nothing ever happened again after that, and I still live in that house with my now husband. No explanation for any of it has ever come up. I'm genuinely open and curious to hear everyone's opinions on this. I was about 14 at the time and walking back from school. Unfortunately for me, I had to walk through a fairly sketchy area to get home. As I approached the underpass, I saw a man coming out on my side of the path. He immediately crossed the road to the other side. I lost focus of him and started looking at the floor. I continued to walk forward when I suddenly got this feeling of unease. I looked up, only to see the man was now sprinting full force directly towards me with a needle in his hand. The thing that freaked me out the most, though, was his face. He looked so furious, as if he absolutely hated me from the bottom of his heart. I've never had such a feeling of panic and fear prior or after. I got cold sweats instantly, and I could tell this man wanted to kill me. I started sprinting straight away, not daring to look back at him. I'm a fairly overweight person, so I didn't think I had much hope of escaping, but I still had to try. After 5 minutes of doing my best running, I looked back only to see the man was now gone. I'm not sure why, but I rang up a friend of mine straight away and told him about this. As I described the man to my friend, he instantly knew who I was talking about. He was a local crazy who had terrorized the other locals for years, in and out of prison for various things. I've had nightmares of people sprinting towards me ever since. I'm not sure if this incident translates well into text, but it was a truly terrifying moment in my life. I don't know what he would have done if he actually caught me, if he simply would have killed me or done something even worse. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.